I'm glad to have you here. Follow my story until the end and comment the city you're watching from. I was standing on the porch of the house I had paid for, holding a warm apple cinnamon cake against my chest like a shield when my daughter-in-law opened the door just wide enough to let the rejection out. The smell of roasted chicken and rosemary wafted into the cool October evening. My son Benjamin's favorite meal, the meal he'd specifically called me about 3 days ago. Mom, Sunday dinner, 7 sharp, just us, I promise. Just us. But the sound behind Vanessa told a different story. Laughter, the clink of wine glasses, at least 8, maybe 10 voices mixing together in that particular rhythm of adults trying to impress each other. Vanessa was wearing a cream silk blouse I'd never seen before. It probably cost more than I spent on groceries in a month. Her smile was the kind you give to a door-to-door salesman you're trying to politely dismiss. "Oh, Amelia." Her voice dropped to a whisper, even though there was no one else outside to hear. "This is actually a client appreciation evening. Benjamin must have forgotten to mention the change of plans." My hands tightened around the cake pan. The aluminum was still warm through the dish towel I'd wrapped it in. 3 hours ago, I'd been standing in my kitchen, carefully measuring cinnamon and brown sugar, using my mother-in-law's handwritten recipe card, the one with the grease stain in the corner from 40 years of Sunday dinners. "He called me Wednesday," I said, my voice smaller than I wanted it to be. "He said it was important. Family dinner." Before Vanessa could answer, I saw them. Through the gap in the door in the warmth of the living room I'd helped furnish, I saw my grandchildren. Sophie, 19, home from college for the weekend, was perched on the arm of the leather sofa. The sofa I'd co-signed for when Benjamin opened his new practice 3 years ago. She wore a black cocktail dress and held a wine glass, playing at being sophisticated for whatever crowd her parents were entertaining. Lucas, 16, stood awkwardly near the fireplace in a button-down shirt and tie. His hands were shoved in his pockets, and even from this distance I could see the discomfort on his face. They both saw me. Sophie's eyes widened. Lucas looked down at his shoes. Neither of them moved. "Amelia," Benjamin's voice came from behind Vanessa, and then he was there, filling the doorway. My son, 43 years old, 6 feet tall, wearing the Tag Heuer watch I'd bought him for his 40th birthday, the watch that had cost me 3 months of my Social Security checks. He didn't look me in the eye. He looked at the cake in my hands, then at the porch light above my head, then somewhere over my left shoulder into the darkness of the suburban street. "Mom," he started, and the tone made my stomach drop. It was the same tone he'd used at 12 when he'd broken my favorite vase and knew he couldn't fix it. "We're keeping tonight elevated. A few colleagues from the firm, some potential investors. It might be uncomfortable for you." Uncomfortable. The word hung in the air between us like something with weight and mass. Uncomfortable for me. In the home I'd helped them purchase with the $30,000 down payment from my retirement savings. With the son whose law school loans I'd co-signed, whose first car I'd bought, whose wedding I'd paid for when his father had already been 2 years in the ground, I looked down at the cake, at the careful lattice of cinnamon streusel on top, at my reflection distorted in the aluminum pan. Suddenly it felt foolish, a peasant's offering at a king's court. "I thought I was family," I whispered. Vanessa smoothed her silk blouse, a gesture I'd seen her make 100 times when she was about to say something cutting but wanted to appear gentle while doing it. "It's just better if you skip this one, Amelia." She paused, then delivered the line that would change everything. "You know how image works? Honestly, you should learn to live more modestly so we can focus on building our future. We need the space tonight." Live more modestly. The words were so absurd I almost laughed. I was living modestly. I'd been living modestly for the last 8 years. I'd been living modestly in my small 3-bedroom house with the furnace that rattled and the water heater I was afraid to replace because it would cost $2,000 I didn't have. I'd been living modestly by clipping coupons and buying generic medications and wearing the same winter coat for 12 years. I'd been living modestly so they could live like this. But they didn't want me to live more modestly. They wanted to live more comfortably, at my expense, and they wanted me to be invisible while I did it. Behind Benjamin, through the narrow gap still remaining in the doorway, I saw a woman in a designer dress laughing at something someone had said. She held a glass of wine that probably cost more than my electric bill. The chandelier above the dining table, the one Vanessa had insisted they needed, the one I'd helped pay for, cast everything in a warm golden glow. "Mom," Benjamin's voice again, softer now, almost pleading. Just go home, please. We'll do lunch next week or something. Or something. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. Not there, not then. I simply nodded. The movement felt mechanical, like my neck was a rusty hinge that hadn't been oiled in years. I see, I said. Well, you two enjoy your evening. I turned and walked back down the path. My old bones protesting. My orthopedic shoes, the ugly ones I'd bought on sale, because I couldn't afford both cute and comfortable scuffing against the concrete. Behind me I heard the door close. Not a slam, just a soft final click. Then the porch light went off. They turned off the porch light. I was plunged into darkness, standing on their front walkway, holding a cake nobody wanted realizing, with a clarity that felt like ice water in my veins, that I hadn't been a mother to them for years. I hadn't been a grandmother. I'd been an ATM, a resource to be managed and hidden when inconvenient. And resources don't get invited to dinner. My car was parked on the street 3 houses down. They'd asked me to park there, I remembered now. Vanessa had texted that afternoon. Street parking tonight, please, driveway will be full. Even that had been a warning I'd missed. I walked slowly, carefully. At 64, you learn to watch your step in the dark. A fall can mean a broken hip. A broken hip can mean the end of independence. And independence was about all I had left. The cake was getting heavy. Or maybe my arms were just tired. I reached my car, a 2011 Honda Civic with a dent in the rear bumper and an inspection sticker that was 2 months expired. I'd been meaning to get that fixed, but the inspection would mean they'd notice the check engine light, and fixing that would mean at least $400, and I had to choose between that and the prescription refill for my blood pressure medication that wasn't quite covered by Medicare Part D. I chose the medication. The car still ran. My heart needed to keep beating. I set the cake on the roof of the car while I fumbled for my keys. My hands were shaking. Not from the cold, it was only October, still mild in the evenings, but from something else. Something that felt like the ground shifting beneath my feet. The keys slipped from my fingers and hit the pavement with a jingling clatter. "Damn it," I whispered. Then louder, "Damn it, damn it, damn it." I bent down my knees, cracking in protest, and grabbed the keys. When I stood up, I saw my reflection in the car window. An old woman. That's what I saw. Not Amelia Barrett, who'd managed the accounting books for her husband's construction company for 30 years. Not Amelia, who'd balanced budgets and caught embezzlement and saved the business twice from bankruptcy. Not Amelia, who'd raised a son and buried a husband and survived and kept going. Just an old woman. Invisible. Inconvenient. The tears came then, hot and stinging, blurring the streetlights into long, watery streaks. I got in the car, set the cake on the passenger seat, started the engine, and I drove home through tears that wouldn't stop, past houses where families were having Sunday dinner together, past restaurants where couples were celebrating anniversaries, past the whole normal world where people loved each other and meant it. My house was dark when I pulled into the driveway. I'd left one lamp on in the living room the way I always did, but the bulb must have burned out because now the windows were black and empty, and the house looked abandoned. It felt abandoned. I sat in the car for a long time, engine off, hands on the steering wheel, staring at nothing. Have you ever had that moment? That moment when you realize that the people you love most in the world don't actually love you back. Not really. They love what you do for them. They love the safety net you provide, the bills you pay, the problems you solve. But they don't love you. It's a realization that cracks you open. It's a realization that breaks something that can never quite be put back together the same way. I thought about Robert, my husband, dead 6 years now from a heart attack he didn't see coming, 58 years old, working on a job site in Phoenix, and then just gone. We'd been married 34 years. He'd been my best friend, my business partner, my everything. And in those last few months before he died, he'd said something to me that I'd dismissed at the time. We'd been in bed late at night talking about Benjamin. Ben was 37, then just finishing up law school later than most because he'd changed careers 3 times before finally settling on law. Robert had been worried. "Millie," he'd said. That's what he called me. Millie. "We're making Ben soft. All this helping. We need to let him struggle. That's how a man finds his backbone." I'd argued. I'd said that parents are supposed to help their children, that times were different now, that Robert was being old-fashioned. Robert had taken my hand in the dark. I could still remember exactly how his hand felt. calloused from decades of construction work, but gentle. Always gentle with me. "Don't let him take you for granted, Millie," he'd said. "Teach him to stand on his own. Promise me." But I hadn't promised. I'd kissed him and changed the subject, and 6 weeks later he was dead, and Benjamin had been devastated, and I'd wanted to help to ease the pain to make things better, and I'd been helping ever since. "I'm sorry, Robert," I whispered into the dark car. You were right, and I didn't listen." I wiped my eyes, picked up the cake, and went inside. The house was cold. I'd been keeping the thermostat at 62 to save money, and in October that meant coming home to a chill that sank into your bones. I turned it up to 65, a small rebellion, and went to the kitchen. The kitchen where I'd baked the cake, where the mixing bowl still sat in the sink, dusted with flour, where my mother-in-law's recipe box sat on the counter, the cards yellowed with age and use. I set the cake down and stared at it. Then I got a fork from the drawer and ate a piece. Right there, standing at the counter in my coat. I didn't bother with a plate. It was good. Really good. The cinnamon was perfectly balanced, the cake moist and tender, the streusel crunchy and sweet. "Their loss," I said out loud to the empty kitchen. But it didn't feel like their loss. It felt like mine. I finished the piece of cake, rinsed the fork, and turned off the kitchen light. Then I walked down the hall to my bedroom, lay down on top of the covers without changing clothes, and stared at the ceiling in the dark. Sleep didn't come. My mind was racing, circling around the same questions over and over. How had it come to this? When had I become something to be hidden? And more importantly, what was I going to do about it? The alarm went off at 6:30 Monday morning the way it always did. Old habits from 40 years of working don't die just because you retire. I lay there for a moment watching the numbers on the clock radio flip to 6:31, then 6:32. Usually my first thought every morning was about them. Had Benjamin remembered to pay his malpractice insurance? Did Vanessa get that dental appointment scheduled? Did Lucas need money for the school trip? Did Sophie need help with her sorority dues? This morning those thoughts felt different. Heavier, tinged with something bitter. I got up, made coffee, the cheap kind from the grocery store, not the fancy beans Vanessa bought, and sat at my kitchen table. The table where Robert and I had paid bills together every Sunday night for 3 decades. The table where we'd done Benjamin's homework with him when he struggled with math. The table where I'd signed the check for his law school tuition, and his first car, and his wedding, and everything after. The table where I'd slowly, quietly, without quite realizing I was doing it, given away my security so he could have his comfort. I pulled my laptop across the table and opened it. The screensaver was a photo from 5 years ago. Benjamin's 40th birthday party. All of us together. Benjamin in the center holding Lucas, who'd been 11 then. Vanessa standing beside him, one hand on Sophie's shoulder. And me off to the side, slightly smiling at the camera. I'd paid for that party. The venue, the catering, the cake. $4,000. I clicked past the photo and opened my files. There it was, Family Support 2024 bought XLSX. I updated this spreadsheet every month. I'd been doing it for years. At first it had been a way to track things so I could budget properly. Then it became a way to make sure I wasn't forgetting anything. Now I realized it was evidence. Evidence of what exactly I wasn't sure yet. But evidence nonetheless. I opened the file and stared at the neat columns. Years of data. Years of payments. And I thought I need to see it all. Every bit of it. I need to understand exactly what I've been doing. I needed to excavate the truth from the careful layers I'd been building, payment by payment justification. By justification for almost a decade. So that's what I did. It took me 3 hours. 3 hours to go through 8 years of bank statements, credit card bills, canceled checks, and Venmo transactions. 3 hours to build a comprehensive spreadsheet that showed me exactly how much of my life I'd given away. By the time I was done, my second cup of coffee was cold and untouched. The numbers on the screen seemed to pulse and glow, demanding to be seen, refusing to be ignored. I'd organized everything by category the way I used to do for Robert's business accounts. Clean, professional, undeniable. Housing. Mortgage payment. $3.200 month. I'd been paying this for 4 years since Benjamin's practice had temporary cash flow issues. Property tax, $8,400 year quarterly payments. Homeowner's insurance, $2 year. HOA fees, $350 month. Home warranty, $65 month transportation. BMW X5 lease. Vanessa's car, $847 month. Tesla Model S lease. Benjamin's car, $1.24 month. Auto insurance, both vehicles $425 a month. Gas cards, both vehicles $400 a month. Car washes and detailing $120 a month. Education. Lucas's private school tuition $28,000 a year. Lucas's school fees, supplies, activities $300 a month. Sophie's college tuition, state school $45,000 a year. Sophie's room and board $15,000 a year. Sophie's sorority dues $400 a year. Sophie's textbooks and supplies $200 a month. Lifestyle and memberships. Country club membership $800 a month. Golf fees and lessons. Benjamin $350 a month. Personal trainer Vanessa $480 a month. Yoga studio membership Vanessa $189 a month. Gym membership Lucas $40 a month. Wine club subscription $150 a month. Meal kit delivery service $400 a month. Household services. Housekeeping service 2x per week $480 a month. Landscaping and lawn care $350 a month. Pool maintenance $185 a month. Pest control $75 a month. Security system monitoring $60 a month. Utilities, electric and gas $340 a month. Water and sewer $130 a month. Internet and cable $215 a month. Cell phones family plan 4 lines $260 a month. Streaming services Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, HBO, Apple TV Plus $87 a month. Cloud storage 15-month insurance. Life insurance policy on Benjamin $320 a month. Supplemental health insurance $185 a month. Dental insurance $95 a month. Vision insurance $45 a month. Credit cards. I'd been paying the minimums on 4 different credit cards in Benjamin's and Vanessa's names. Chase Sapphire Reserve $850 a month. Groceries, restaurants, travel. American Express Gold $650 a month. Shopping, entertainment. Nordstrom card $300 a month. Vanessa's clothing. Discover $200 a month. Miscellaneous. Emergencies, miscellaneous recurring charges. Spotify family plan $16 a month. Amazon Prime $139 a year. Costco membership $120 a year. AAA membership family $124 a year. Magazine subscriptions $45 a month. Vanessa's dermatology appointments $200 a month. Vanessa's hair salon $300 a month. Vanessa's nail appointments $120 a month. Pet insurance, their dog $65 a month. Dog grooming $90 a month. Birthday and holiday gifts from them to others $400 a month averaged, and dozens more. Small subscriptions and recurring charges that I'd attached to my credit card temporarily over the years. Digital newspapers, meditation apps, LinkedIn Premium, food delivery services, wine subscriptions, coffee subscriptions, flower deliveries for Vanessa's mother. I counted them 3 times to be sure. 127 recurring payments flowing from my accounts into their lives every single month. Then I calculated the total. Monthly $15,498, annual $185,976, $185,976 per year. I stared at that number until my eyes burned. My Social Security check was $2,847 per month. My pension from Robert's company was $1,987 per month. Total income $58.08 per year. I was spending $186,000 a year while earning $58,000. The difference was coming from my savings, the life insurance money from Robert, the retirement accounts we'd built over 34 years of marriage, the security he'd worked himself to death to provide for me. I was bleeding it away at the rate of $10,000 per month. At this rate, I had maybe 3 more years before it was gone, before there was nothing left. And then what? Would they take care of me? Would they welcome me into their home, the home I'd paid for when I could no longer afford my own? I thought about last night, about standing on that porch, about the door closing in my face, about the porch light going dark. I knew the answer. My phone buzzed on the table, making me jump. A text from Sophie. Hey, Grandma, I need $300 for textbooks. Can you Venmo me? No, please. No, how are you? No mention of last night, just a request. A demand really dressed up in casual language. I stared at the message. Usually I'd reply within minutes. Of course, sweetheart sent, I'd check my Venmo balance, wince at how low it was getting, and send the money anyway. Then I'd probably send an extra 50 or 100 just in case she needed it for something else. This time I set the phone face down on the table and turned back to my spreadsheet. I added a new tab, labeled it Timeline. 8 years ago, 2016, Robert dies. Life insurance pays out $850,000, plus $200,000 in retirement savings. Total $150,000. I think I'm secure. 7 years ago, 2017, Benjamin graduates law school, his second graduate degree. The first was an MBA he never used. Has $180,000 in student loans. I co-signed for consolidation promise to help with payments temporarily. Begin paying $1,500 month. 6 years ago, 2018, Benjamin and Vanessa want to buy a house. They need $50,000 for down payment. I withdraw it from savings. We'll pay you back, Mom. This is an investment in our future. 5 years ago, 2019, Benjamin opens his own practice. Needs $75,000 for startup costs. I take out a home equity line of credit against my own house. Just for a year, Mom. 2 at most. 5 years ago, 2019, 6 months later. Practice isn't generating expected income. Benjamin needs help with mortgage until things pick up. I begin paying $3,200 month, temporary, Mom. I promise. 4 years ago, 2020, COVID hits. Benjamin's practice slows down. I start covering more bills. Just until the pandemic is over. 4 years ago, 2020, ongoing Vanessa quits her marketing job, $65,000 a year, to focus on family and wellness. I increase support. 3 years ago, 2021, things pick up, but somehow they need more help than ever. The country club membership is essential networking. The private school is crucial for Lucas's future. The new cars are necessary for client perception. 2 years ago, 2022, I refinance my house to pay off my home equity line and get more cash out. $85,000. It goes into their lives within 6 months. Last year, 2023, I start having trouble making my own bills. Begin rationing medications. Delay necessary house repairs. Stop contributing to my own retirement. Stop seeing my own doctor regularly. Cancel my own gym membership. Give up my book club. The $50 month dues seemed frivolous. This year, 2024, I am paying $186,000 per year to support a lifestyle I can't afford for people who just uninvited me from Sunday dinner because I might embarrass them. I sat back in my chair. The morning sun was streaming through the kitchen window, now illuminating dust motes in the air. Outside, I could hear a neighbor's lawnmower, someone's dog barking, normal Monday morning sounds. My phone buzzed again. Sophie. Grandma, did you see my message? Then a text from Vanessa. Amelia, the landscapers are charging us a late fee because the card on file was declined. Can you check on that? Not an apology about last night, not even an acknowledgement, just a demand to fix a problem I'd caused by having the audacity to let a payment decline. I picked up my phone and looked at the messages. Then I opened my contacts and scrolled to a name I hadn't called in years, Janet Reeves. Janet had been Robert's business attorney. She'd helped us with contracts, with liability issues, with the occasional employment dispute. When Robert died, she'd helped me sort through the legal aftermath. She'd urged me then to set up trust to protect my assets, to think carefully about how I helped Benjamin. I hadn't listened. Amelia! Janet's voice was warm when she answered. It's been too long. How are you? Janet. I said, my voice surprisingly steady. I need to talk to you about financial elder abuse. And I need to know what my options are when the person abusing me is my son. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Come to my office, Janet said, her tone shifting to professional. Can you make it today? Say 2 o'clock? I'll be there, I said. I hung up and looked at the spreadsheet on my laptop screen. All those numbers, all those years, all that money flowing out like blood from an open wound. But blood stops flowing eventually. Either the wound closes or the body runs dry. I wasn't going to run dry. Not anymore. I spent the rest of the morning preparing. I printed every bank statement from the last 3 years, every credit card statement, every canceled check, every Venmo and PayPal transaction, every email where Benjamin had asked for help and promised to pay me back. I found text messages where Vanessa had sent shopping photos with notes like, "Isn't this gorgeous? Put it on your Nordstrom card and I'll pay you back Friday." She never had. I found voicemails. So many voicemails. Benjamin, "Hey Mom, sorry to bother you, but the mortgage payment is due tomorrow and I'm waiting on a client payment. Can you cover it? I'll get you next month." Vanessa, Amelia, hi, listen. Sophie needs money for her sorority formal dress. Can you send her $500? You know how important these events are for her social development. Benjamin. Mom, the Tesla payment bounced. I think there's an issue with the account. Can you check we can't have my car repossessed? It would be terrible for the firm's image. And on and on and on. What struck me as I listened to them was the tone. Not apologetic, not grateful, just entitled. Matter of fact. As if my money were really their money and I was just the mechanism by which it flowed to them. I saved everything to a flash drive, made backups, organized it into folders. By the time I left for Janet's office at 1:30, I had a 2-inch thick folder of documentation and a flash drive with 8 gigabytes of evidence. Evidence of what I'd done to myself, what I'd let them do to me. Janet's office was in downtown Morrison in a brick building that had been renovated from an old bank. It still had the original vault door, which always made me smile. The receptionist recognized me and waved me back immediately. "Ms. Reeves is expecting you." Janet came around her desk to hug me when I walked in. She was 62, sharp-eyed, with silver hair she wore in a neat bob and reading glasses on a chain around her neck. "Sit," she said, gesturing to the leather chairs by her window. "Tell me what's going on." So I did. I told her about Sunday night, about the door closing in my face, about living more modestly while they lived in luxury I provided. Then I opened my folder and showed her the spreadsheet. Janet's expression didn't change as she read through it, but I saw her jaw tighten. She went through the documents methodically, making notes on a legal pad. When she finally looked up, her eyes were blazing. "Amelia," she said carefully, "I'm going to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Has Benjamin ever threatened you? Has he or Vanessa ever suggested that your access to your grandchildren depends on your financial support?" I thought about that voicemail, the one from 6 months ago. "Yes," I said quietly. "Last March, Lucas was having a birthday party. I was short that month. I'd had to replace my water heater. It was an emergency. I asked if Benjamin could cover his own electric bill just for March, and I'd catch up in April. And Vanessa called me. She said if I couldn't prioritize family, then maybe I shouldn't come to the party. She said Lucas would be asking questions about why Grandma was too broke to help, and they didn't want to explain that to him." "Do you still have that voicemail?" "Yes." Janet made a note. "That's financial exploitation with coercion. It's a form of elder abuse in this state." The words hung in the air between us. Elder abuse. My son was abusing me. "What are my options?" I asked. Janet leaned back in her chair. "Legally several. But Amelia, I need you to understand something first. If you go down this road, there's no going back. You'll be changing your relationship with Benjamin forever." "I think it already changed," I said. "Last night on that porch. I just didn't want to see it." Janet nodded. "All right then, here's what I recommend." She spent the next hour outlining a plan. First, I would stop all payments immediately. Every automatic transfer, every credit card payment, every check. Everything. Second, I would revoke Benjamin's power of attorney. I'd granted it to him 3 years ago, just in case something happened to me. Another mistake. Third, I would remove him as beneficiary on my life insurance and retirement accounts. In their place, I would set up trusts for Sophie and Lucas accessible when they turned 21 with educational expenses payable before that. Fourth, I would send a formal cease and desist letter if Vanessa continued her behavior. Fifth, and most importantly, I would document everything going forward. Every request for money, every interaction, every text message. "Because," Janet said bluntly, "they're going to push back, hard, and if this goes to court, either because they try to sue you for support or because you need to get a restraining order, you'll need evidence." "Will they actually sue me?" I asked. The thought seemed insane. "People do insane things when money is involved," Janet said. "And Amelia, you've been giving them almost $200,000 a year. When that stops, there will be consequences. They'll lose the house, the cars, the lifestyle, everything." "Good," I said. The word came out harder than I intended. Janet smiled slightly. "Good," she agreed. "Let them lose it. Let them learn what it means to stand on their own feet." She paused, then added gently, "Your husband told me once years ago that his biggest fear was that Benjamin would never have to struggle. He said struggle builds character." My eyes filled with tears. "Robert tried to tell me. I didn't listen." "You're listening now," Janet said. "That's what matters." We spent another hour on paperwork, revoking powers of attorney, changing beneficiary forms, drafting letters to the bank. By the time I left Janet's office at 4:30, I had a plan, a timeline, and an appointment at First National Bank for 9 o'clock Tuesday morning. I drove home slowly, taking the long way past Morrison Lake. The water was dark blue in the late afternoon light, and a few boats were still out catching the last of the day. Robert and I used to come here. We'd pack sandwiches and sit by the shore, watching the light change on the water. "I'm sorry I didn't listen," I said aloud to the empty car. "But I'm listening now, and I'm going to fix this." At home, I made myself dinner for the first time, and I didn't know how long. Just spaghetti with jar sauce, nothing fancy. But I set the table with a real plate and a cloth napkin, and I sat down and ate slowly, tasting the food instead of just shoveling it in while standing at the counter. My phone buzzed through dinner. 7 times. I ignored it. After I ate, I washed the dishes by hand, dried them, put them away. Then I made a cup of tea, the good kind, the chamomile that I usually save for special occasions, and sat in my living room. I'd been so focused on them for so long that I'd forgotten what it felt like to just be. To exist without worry, without the constant background anxiety of wondering what they needed, what they wanted, what they expected. The silence was strange, but not uncomfortable. Actually, it was peaceful. I sipped my tea and looked around the room, at the photos on the walls. Robert and me on our wedding day. Benjamin as a baby, then a toddler, then a gap-toothed first grader. Benjamin's high school graduation, his college graduation, his first law school graduation, his wedding. Every photo told a story of supportive love of a mother who would do anything for her child. But somewhere along the way, that love had curdled into something else, something unhealthy, something that was destroying us both. Tomorrow, I thought. Tomorrow I start fixing it. But first I had one more thing to do. I went to my bedroom and opened the closet. On the top shelf in the back was a shoebox I hadn't touched in 6 years. Inside were Robert's letters. He'd written me letters throughout our marriage for no particular reason. Just little notes he'd leave on my pillow or tuck in my purse. "Love you, Millie. You're beautiful today. Thanks for being my partner." The last one was dated 2 weeks before he died. I'd read it at his funeral, and never since. It hurt too much. Now I took it out with trembling fingers and unfolded the paper. "Millie," it started in his messy handwriting. "If you're reading this and I'm gone, there are some things I need to say. First, I love you. I've loved you since the day I met you in that accounting class and you corrected the professor's math. I've loved you through every moment of our life together. Second, don't let Ben become soft. I know you'll want to help him after I'm gone. You'll want to make everything easier for him. But easy doesn't make a man. Struggle does. Failure does. Learning to stand back up does. If I go first, you'll have the life insurance money. That money is for you, Millie. For your retirement, your health, your peace of mind. Not for Ben. He's got to make his own way. I know I wasn't always firm enough with him. I gave in too much. That's my failure, and I'm sorry for it. Don't repeat my mistake. Make him earn his way. Make him stand on his own feet. That's love, Millie. Real love. The hard kind that actually helps instead of hurts. If he's angry at you for it, that's okay. Let him be angry. Better angry and strong than grateful and weak. I love you forever. Robert." I read it 3 times, tears streaming down my face. "I'm sorry it took so long," I whispered. "But I'm going to fix it now. I promise." I folded the letter carefully and put it back in its envelope. Then I placed it in my purse. Tomorrow at the bank, if I wavered, if I felt weak, if I started to doubt myself, I'd read it again. Robert had known. He'd seen what I couldn't see. And he'd loved me enough to tell me the truth, even knowing I wouldn't want to hear it. Now I needed to love Benjamin enough to do the same thing, even if he hated me for it. I couldn't sleep. At 2 a.m, I was still lying awake, staring at the ceiling, thinking about tomorrow. About the look on the bank teller's face when I asked to cancel 127 automatic payments. About the phone calls that would come after. About Benjamin's voice when he realized what I'd done. Part of me, a large part, wanted to roll over, go to sleep, wake up and pretend none of this had happened. Keep paying the bills. Keep being useful. Keep buying my way into their lives. But I couldn't. I literally couldn't anymore. The money was running out. In 3 years, maybe less, I'd have nothing left. And then what would they take care of me? Let me move in. I remembered the porch, the closed door, the darkness. No, they wouldn't. I'd be an elderly woman with no savings, no security, no one to help me. I'd be exactly what they already saw me as, a burden, unless I changed it now. At 3 a.m., I got up and went back to my computer. I opened the spreadsheet one more time and added a new column, impact of cancellation. Mortgage payment stops. They default. Bank begins foreclosure process. They have 90 days to either refinance or sell. Car lease payments stop. Vehicles repossessed. They lose both cars within 30 days. Credit cards unpaid. Cards maxed out, then canceled. Credit score destroyed. Insurance lapses. They have to find their own coverage at higher rates. Country club membership cancels. They lose access, lose networking opportunities. And on and on and on. It would be devastating. It would be a complete collapse of the life they'd built on my foundation. I woke at 6 a.m. Tuesday morning to 17 missed calls. 12 from Benjamin, 3 from Vanessa, 2 from a number I didn't recognize, and 43 text messages. I sat up in bed, my heart pounding, and scrolled through them with shaking hands. Benjamin, 11:47 p.m. Mom, call me when you get this. Need to talk about something. Benjamin, 12:23 a.m. Mom, seriously, pick up. The mortgage payment bounced. Bank is saying the account is frozen or something. Benjamin, 1:15 a.m. Mom, where are you? This is important. Call me now. Vanessa, 1:34 a.m. Amelia, I don't know what's going on, but we need to talk immediately. Benjamin, 2:08 a.m. I'm coming over there in the morning. Something is seriously wrong. Vanessa, 2:45 a.m. The Tesla payment declined. And the BMW, and 3 credit cards. Amelia, what is happening? Benjamin, 3:12 a.m. I just got off the phone with the bank. They said you stopped all the automatic payments. All of them. Call me before I call the police for a wellness check. Unknown number, 5:47 a.m. Mrs. Barrett, this is Morrison Security Services. Your son has requested we do a wellness check at your residence. Please confirm you are safe so we can cancel this request. I stared at the last message. He'd called for a wellness check, as if I were some confused old woman who'd accidentally locked herself out or left the stove on. I typed back to the security company, I am perfectly well and safe. No check needed. Thank you. Then I got out of bed, made coffee, and got dressed carefully. Real clothes, not loungewear. A navy blouse and slacks. My good shoes. I even put on lipstick. If I was going to war, I was going to look like I meant it. First National Bank opened at 9 o'clock. I was there at 8:45, waiting in my car with my folder of documents and Robert's letter in my purse. Linda Morrison arrived at 8:52, parking in her reserved spot near the entrance. She'd been branch manager for 15 years, and I'd known her almost that long. Our sons had played Little League together back when they were 9 years old. She saw me and waved, smiling. Then something in my face made her smile falter. Amelia, she said as I approached, is everything all right? Let's talk inside, I said. She unlocked the doors and led me back to her office, stopping only to start the coffee maker in the break room. This feels like a coffee conversation, she said. Once we were seated in her office with the door closed, Linda folded her hands on her desk and waited. I opened my folder and slid the spreadsheet across to her. I need to cancel all automatic transfers and payments from my accounts, I said. Every single one. 127 recurring transactions. Effective immediately. Linda picked up the spreadsheet and scanned it. Her eyes widened. Amelia, she said slowly, these are all payments to your son's accounts. Yes. This is over $15,000 a month. Yes. If you cancel all of these at once, there will be immediate defaults. His mortgage, his car leases, his credit cards. Everything will bounce. His credit will be destroyed. I understand. Linda set down the spreadsheet and looked at me carefully. What happened? So I told her. About Sunday night. About the door. About the porch light going dark. About living more modestly while they lived on my dime. Linda's jaw tightened. She was quiet for a long moment. How much do you have left? She asked finally. In savings. I pulled out another document. My account balances. Linda looked at the numbers and closed her eyes. Oh, Amelia, I know. You're almost out of money. At this rate. 3 years, I said. Maybe less. And then I'd have nothing. And I'd still be the old woman they're embarrassed to be seen with. Linda nodded slowly. Then she straightened in her chair, her expression shifting from friend to professional. All right, she said. Let's do this properly. We'll need to go through each account, each automatic payment, each authorized user status. This is going to take a few hours. I have time, I said. I have nothing but time. We started with the mortgage payment. Linda pulled up Benjamin's account. I was listed as an authorized payer, which meant I could see everything. The account was perpetually at near zero balance. Every month money came in from his law practice, and every month it went right back out again. There was never more than a few $100s of cushion. He's living paycheck to paycheck, Linda said, except his paycheck includes your $15,000 a month. He makes $240,000 a year, I said. And he can't pay his own electric bill. Linda said nothing, just kept clicking through screens. We went through every payment, every automatic transfer, every authorized user status. Linda made notes, filled out forms, clicked boxes. At one point she stopped and looked at me. "Are you sure?" she asked. "Once I process this, it's going to happen fast. By end of business today, everything will be cut off." I thought about Robert's letter in my purse, about the last 6 years, about Sunday night. "I'm sure," I said. Linda nodded and kept working. It took until almost noon. When we were done, Linda printed out a confirmation sheet. Pages and pages of cancellations. 127 line items, each marked terminated. "There's one more thing," I said. "I need to revoke Benjamin's power of attorney, and I need to change the beneficiaries on my accounts." Linda's expression was carefully neutral. "That's significant." "I know." She called in one of the bank's notaries and we spent another hour on paperwork. Revoking the power of attorney. Changing my life insurance beneficiary from Benjamin to a trust for Sophie and Lucas. Changing my retirement account beneficiaries the same way. By the time I walked out of the bank at 1:15 p.m., I had legally and financially severed most of my connection to Benjamin. I also felt like I'd run a marathon. I was exhausted, wrung out, shaky. But I wasn't done yet. I drove to Janet Reeves's office and dropped off copies of everything I'd signed at the bank. "It's done," I told her. Janet looked at the documents and nodded approvingly. "Good. Now comes the hard part." "What hard part?" I thought that was the hard part. "No," Janet said. "That was the easy part. The hard part is what happens when Benjamin figures out what you've done and comes after you." "You think he will?" "Amelia, you just cut off nearly $200,000 in annual support." "Yes. He will absolutely come after you." She opened a drawer and pulled out a small digital recorder. "Keep this with you," she said. "If Benjamin or Vanessa shows up at your house, turn it on. Record everything. Don't tell them you're recording. This is a one-party consent state, so you're legally allowed to record conversations you're part of. Do you understand?" I took the recorder. It was small, black, about the size of a USB drive. "I understand," I said. "If things escalate, if they threaten you or try to force their way into your house, you call 911 immediately. Don't wait. Don't try to handle it yourself. Call the police." "You really think it could come to that?" Janet's expression was grave. "I've been a lawyer for 32 years, Amelia. I've seen families destroy each other over far less money than this. Your son has been living a lifestyle he can't afford, and he's about to lose everything. People do desperate things when they're desperate." I nodded, feeling cold despite the warm afternoon. "One more thing," Janet said. "Don't answer your phone unless you're ready to talk to them. And when you do talk to them, keep it short. Don't defend yourself, don't explain, don't justify. Just state facts. I've made changes to my financial situation. This is final. I'm not discussing it further. That's it. Nothing more." "What if he asks why?" "You don't owe him an explanation. But if you want to give one, keep it to one sentence. I can no longer afford to support your lifestyle. That's all." I left Janet's office with the recorder in my purse and a knot of dread in my stomach. My phone rang the moment I started my car. Benjamin. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again immediately. Benjamin. Again to voicemail. A text came through, "Mom, pick up the phone." Then another. "I know you're avoiding me. This is serious. The bank said you canceled everything. Everything. What the hell is going on?" Then another. "I'm coming to your house. We need to talk. Now." I sat in the parking lot, gripping the steering wheel, trying to decide what to do. Go home and face him. Drive somewhere else. Hide? No hiding. I'd spent years making myself small, making myself convenient, making myself useful. I wasn't going to literally hide from him now. I drove home. Benjamin's car, not the Tesla, which I assumed had already been repossessed or was about to be, but a different sedan maybe borrowed, was in my driveway when I pulled up at 2:45 p.m. He was sitting on my front porch steps. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I pulled the recorder from my purse, turned it on, and slipped it into my cardigan pocket. Then I got out of the car. Benjamin stood up. He looked terrible. His hair was disheveled, his shirt wrinkled, his eyes red-rimmed and wild. "Mom," he said, and his voice cracked. "What did you do?" I walked past him and unlocked my front door. "Come inside. We can talk inside." He followed me in, and I was careful to leave the door open. Janet's voice in my head: never be alone in a room with someone who might become violent or aggressive. Always have an exit. I set my purse on the hall table and turned to face him. "What did I do?" I repeated calmly. "I stopped paying your bills." "You stopped?" He gaped at me. "You canceled everything. The mortgage, the cars, the credit cards, the kids' tuition, everything. The bank called me this morning. Do you know what this means? We're going to lose the house. The cars are all ready. The Tesla was repossessed this afternoon. They came and took it right out of the driveway while Vanessa was inside. Do you know how humiliating that was?" "I imagine it was very humiliating," I said. "Almost as humiliating as being turned away from your door on Sunday night." He flinched. "That's what this is about. You're punishing us because of one dinner." "No, Benjamin, I'm not punishing you. I'm stopping enabling you." "Enabling?" His voice rose. "You're my mother. You're supposed to help me." "I have been helping you," I said, my voice still calm, though my hands were shaking. "For 8 years, $186,000 a year. Do you have any idea how much money that is? I never asked you to pay for everything." I walked to my dining room table where I'd left my folder and pulled out the printed spreadsheet. "Yes, you did," I said. "Here, March 2023 email. Mom, can you cover the mortgage this month? Client payments are slow." May 2023 text. Mom, the country club membership is due and we're a little short. August 2023 voicemail. Mom, Sophie needs money for textbooks. Should I go on? I have 8 years of these. Benjamin stared at the spreadsheet. His face went from red to pale. "That's not... I didn't realize..." "You didn't want to realize," I said. "Because as long as you didn't look at it directly, you could pretend it wasn't happening. You could pretend you were successful, independent, living the life you'd earned. But you weren't, Benjamin. You were living the life I paid for." "Dad would have wanted you to help us," he said, and there was desperation in his voice now. I reached into my purse and pulled out Robert's letter. My hands weren't shaking anymore. "Your father wrote this 2 weeks before he died," I said. "Would you like to read it?" Benjamin took the letter with trembling hands. I watched his eyes move across the page, watched his face crumble. "He told me not to enable you," I said quietly. "He told me to make you stand on your own feet. He knew what I didn't want to see, that I was hurting you by helping you, that I was making you weak." "You're going to let us lose everything," Benjamin whispered. "No," I said. "I'm going to let you save yourself. You make $240,000 a year, Benjamin. That's more than your father and I ever made together. You can afford a house, just not that house. You can afford cars, just not those cars. You can afford to live. You just can't afford to live like you have been." "What about the kids?" His voice cracked. "Sophie's tuition. I've set up trusts for Sophie and Lucas," I said. "They can access them for education when they turn 21. In the meantime, Sophie can work part-time like millions of other college students. Lucas can go to public school. They'll be fine." "Public school?" Benjamin looked horrified. "Vanessa will never..." "Then Vanessa can get a job," I said. "She's 39 years old with a marketing degree. She can work." Benjamin was shaking his head, backing toward the door. "This is insane. You're being cruel. You're punishing us because we hurt your feelings." "No," I interrupted, and for the first time my voice rose. "I'm saving myself." Because in 3 years, Benjamin Y. would have had nothing left. Nothing. And where would I have been then? Living with you. Would you have taken me in? Would Vanessa have welcomed me into her home? Benjamin didn't answer. "I was standing on your porch Sunday night," I said, my voice breaking now, "holding a cake I'd baked for you. And you turned off the porch light. You left me standing in the dark because I was embarrassing, because I wasn't elevated enough, because I didn't fit your image. Mom, so no Benjamin. I'm not paying your mortgage anymore. I'm not buying your cars or your country club memberships or your wife's personal trainer. I'm not funding a life you can't afford so you can pretend I don't exist. You're going to regret this, he said, and there was anger in his voice now. When we lose the house, when the kids have to change schools, when everything falls apart. The only thing I regret, I said, is that I didn't do this years ago. Benjamin stared at me for a long moment. Then he turned and walked out, slamming the door behind him so hard the windows rattled. I stood there shaking, listening to his car start and pull away with a squeal of tires. Then I sat down at my dining room table and cried. The phone calls and texts continued all afternoon and into the evening. Benjamin called 6 more times. I didn't answer. Vanessa called twice, then sent a long text message. Amelia, I don't know what Benjamin did to upset you, but this is affecting the entire family. The children. Sophie is hysterical because her tuition payment bounced. Lucas is asking why we're selling his computer. This is cruel and vindictive. I thought you were better than this. We need to talk like adults. Call me. I deleted it. At 7 p.m., Sophie called. I almost didn't answer, but she was my granddaughter, and this wasn't her fault. Grandma, her voice was small and scared. Hi, sweetheart. What's happening? Mom and Dad are freaking out. Dad said you stopped helping us. I closed my eyes. How much should I tell her? How much did she need to know? Sophie, honey, I love you very much, but I can't keep paying for everything anymore. I don't have the money. But Dad said, she stopped. Never mind, it's fine. I needed books for my classes and the money didn't come through and how much do you need? $300. But if you can't, I'll send it, I said. But Sophie, this is the last time. After this, you need to get a job. Do you understand most college students work? You can too. There was a long silence. Grandma, she said finally, is it true you pay for everything? Like everything? Yes. Even our house? Yes. Another silence. I didn't know, she whispered. I thought Dad always said he was successful, that he'd made it. I didn't know it was because of you. My heart broke a little. It's not your fault, sweetheart. I feel like it is. I've been asking you for money for years and I never even said thank you. I just expected it. You were a child, I said. And now you're learning better. That's all that matters. I'm going to get a job, Sophie said. Tomorrow. I'm going to pay you back, Grandma. I don't know how long it will take, but I'm going to do it. I was crying again, but this time they were different tears. I love you, Sophie. I love you too, Grandma. I'm sorry. After we hung up, I sent her the $300. Then I made myself dinner, just a grilled cheese sandwich and tomato soup, nothing fancy, and tried to read a book. I couldn't concentrate. My mind kept spinning. Were they really going to lose the house? Would Benjamin find a way to refinance? Would Vanessa actually get a job? And more importantly, was I doing the right thing? I found out the answer to some of those questions over the next 2 weeks. The texts and calls continued, but I didn't respond. Janet had advised me to keep a log of every contact, so I did. I screenshot every text, saved every voicemail. Through Susan Caldwell, my friend who played bridge with Vanessa's mother, I heard what was happening. Day 3, the BMW was repossessed. Vanessa had a screaming meltdown in the Whole Foods parking lot when she came out with groceries and found the car gone. Day 5, the country club membership was suspended for non-payment. Benjamin had been scheduled to play golf with a potential client. He had to cancel. Day 7, Benjamin listed the Tesla online, but discovered he owed more on the lease than he could get for it. Day 10, Lucas came home from school crying because he'd been told he couldn't return next semester unless the tuition was paid in full. They'd been on a payment plan which I'd been funding, and when the payment stopped, the school took action. Day 12, Benjamin put the house on the market. Listed price $675,000. They owed $580,000 on the mortgage. After realtor fees and closing costs, they might walk away with $50,000. Maybe. Day 14, Vanessa got a job, retail management at Nordstrom, starting salary $58,000 a year. Susan told me that one over coffee, her eyes wide. Vanessa is working retail, she said. She came in yesterday in a name tag. A name tag Amelia. She looked like she wanted to die. Good, I said. Susan gave me a look. You're really not going back on this? No. Even though they're struggling. Susan, they're not struggling. They're adjusting. There's a difference. Struggling is what I was doing, choosing between medication and food. What they're doing is learning to live within their means. Susan nodded slowly. You know, Vanessa's mother says Vanessa cries every night. That this is your fault. That you're a bitter old woman who wants to punish them. I know what people are saying, I said quietly. Let them say it. But it bothers you. Of course it bothers me, I admitted. I'm a human being, Susan. It bothers me that my son thinks I'm cruel. It bothers me that I'm the villain in this story. But being bothered doesn't mean I'm wrong. Susan reached across the table and squeezed my hand. For what it's worth, I think you're brave. And I think you're right. On day 16, Lucas showed up at my door. It was a Saturday afternoon. I'd been working in my garden, something I'd neglected for years because I was always running errands for them when I heard the distinctive sound of a bicycle chain. I looked up to see Lucas riding up my driveway on an old 10-speed bike. Not the expensive mountain bike I'd bought him 2 years ago. A beat-up old thing from a garage sale or a thrift store. He got off the bike and stood there awkwardly, hands in his pockets. Hi, Grandma, he said. Hi, sweetheart, come sit. I gestured to the porch steps. He sat. I brushed dirt off my gardening gloves and sat next to him. For a while, neither of us said anything. Dad said I shouldn't come here, Lucas finally said. But I wanted to see you. I'm glad you came. Are you really never going to help us again? His voice was small the way it used to be when he was little, and asking if a storm was going to hurt us. I'm always going to love you, I said. But I can't keep paying for everything. I don't have the money, Lucas. But Dad makes a lot of money. He's a lawyer. I know. So why? He trailed off, confusion clear on his face. I thought about how to explain this to a 16-year-old. How to make him understand without making him hate his parents. Lucas, have you ever had a friend who always borrowed your things and never gave them back? Yeah, Danny Kowalski. He still has my PlayStation controller. And how does that make you feel about Danny? Annoyed, like he's taking advantage. That's what happened with me and your dad, I said gently. He kept borrowing, and after a while he forgot he was borrowing. He started thinking it was just his, that he deserved it. And I let him think that because I didn't want to make him feel bad. Lucas was quiet, processing this. But now you're making him feel bad anyway, he said. Yes, because sometimes the only way to help someone is to stop helping them. Do you understand? Not really. I smiled. You will someday. We sat in silence for a few more minutes. Then Lucas said, I'm going to public school now, starting Monday. How do you feel about that? He shrugged. Weird, but also kind of, I don't know. At my old school, everyone had a lot of money, like a lot. And I always felt like I had to keep up. But I couldn't really, my clothes weren't expensive enough. My phone wasn't new enough. It was exhausting. And now I guess I don't have to worry about it. Everyone at public school is just normal. Normal is underrated, I said. Lucas smiled just a little. Then he said, Dad's been drinking a lot and yelling. Mom cries in the bathroom. They think I can't hear, but I can. My heart ached. I'm sorry, sweetheart. It's not your fault, he said. It's theirs. They should have been paying for their own stuff. The clarity of 16-year-old logic. The unflinching honesty of someone who hasn't yet learned to make excuses. You're a smart kid, Lucas. Thanks, Grandma. He stood up. I should go. If I'm gone too long, Dad will... Yeah. Lucas, if things get bad at home, if your dad's drinking gets worse, or if you feel unsafe, you call me, day or night. You understand? He nodded. I know. Thanks, Grandma. He rode away on his beat-up bike, and I watched until he turned the corner. Then I went inside and cried again because this was the cost of doing the right thing. This was the price of tough love. It hurt. God, it hurt. On day 19, I received a letter from an attorney I didn't know. My hands shook as I opened it. It was a cease and desist letter, formal threatening, demanding that I resume financial support as previously established or face legal action for breach of implied contract and financial elder abuse. Financial elder abuse. They were accusing me of abusing them. I called Janet immediately. I got it too, she said calmly. Sent to my office an hour ago. It's toothless Amelia. There's no such thing as an implied contract for adult children's support, and you're the victim of elder abuse, not the perpetrator. This is a scare tactic. It's working, I said, my voice shaking. I'm scared. I know, but we're going to respond with our own letter. We're going to lay out exactly what's been happening, include evidence of financial exploitation, and make it very clear that any further legal action will result in a countersuit. They'll back down. You're sure? I'm sure. Benjamin is desperate and angry, but he's also a lawyer. He knows he doesn't have a case. This is a bluff. Janet was right. 3 days later, I received another letter from Benjamin's attorney, a short one this time, stating that the previous letter had been sent in error and that no further legal action would be pursued. It was over. That threat, at least. On day 25, Vanessa called from a number I didn't recognize. I answered without thinking and immediately regretted it. Amelia, her voice was cold as ice. We need to talk. I don't think we do. I'm leaving Benjamin. That stopped me. What, You heard me. I'm filing for divorce. I'm taking the kids and moving to Colorado to live with my sister. I sat down slowly. Vanessa, Don't, she interrupted. Don't tell me you're sorry. Don't tell me this isn't what you wanted. Because I think it is. I think you wanted to destroy us. That's not true. Isn't it? Her voice was sharp. You cut off all the money and now everything's falling apart. Benjamin is a mess. We're losing the house. I had to take a job in retail. Do you know how humiliating that is? I have a marketing degree, Amelia. I used to run campaigns for major brands, and now I'm folding sweaters at Nordstrom. Then why did you quit your job 4 years ago? I asked quietly. Silence. You made a choice, Vanessa. You chose to quit working. You chose to live beyond your means. You chose to depend on me to fund a lifestyle you couldn't afford. Those were your choices. We had an understanding. No, I interrupted. You had an expectation. I had an obligation I couldn't maintain. There's a difference. I loved him, she said, and for the first time her voice cracked. When I married him, I really did. But somewhere along the way I realized I didn't love him. I loved the life, the house, the cars, the club. And when that was gone, there was nothing left. I didn't know what to say to that. It was the most honest thing Vanessa had ever said to me. I'm sorry, I said finally. I'm sorry you built your life on something so fragile. Are you? She asked bitterly. Because from where I'm sitting, you're the one who pulled the foundation out from under us. No, Vanessa, I was the foundation, and I was crumbling. I had to save myself before I couldn't save anyone. She hung up without another word. I sat there, phone in hand, feeling a strange mixture of sadness and relief. Benjamin was about to lose everything. His house, his cars, his wife, his children, and it was my fault. Except it wasn't. It was his. It had always been his. I just finally stopped preventing the natural consequences of his choices. The house sold on day 32. Not for the asking price, they had to drop it to $625,000, but it sold. After paying off the mortgage, the realtor, and various fees, Benjamin walked away with $28,000. Susan told me he found a 3-bedroom rental house in an older neighborhood. Not terrible, but nothing like what they'd had. The rent was $2,200 a month, far more reasonable than a $3,200 mortgage. Vanessa and the kids moved to Colorado on day 35. I didn't know this until day 37 when Sophie called me crying. Grandma, she sobbed. Mom took us to Colorado. We're living with Aunt Jessica. I had to leave school, leave my friends, leave everything. Oh, sweetheart. And Lucas is so angry. He punched a wall yesterday and broke his hand. And Dad is all alone and Mom is talking about divorce lawyers and everything is falling apart and I don't know what to do. Sophie, honey, take a breath. She did, hiccuping through tears. This is not your fault, I said firmly. And it's not your responsibility to fix. Your parents made choices, lots of choices that led to this. You're 18 years old. You don't have to carry their burden. But what do? You finish your semester. You get a job. You take care of yourself. And you let them figure out how to be adults. Can I come stay with you? She asked suddenly. Just for winter break. I don't want to be in Colorado and I don't want to be with Dad when he's like this. Of course you can, I said. You're always welcome here, Sophie. Always. She cried harder. I love you, Grandma. I love you too, baby. On day 40, Benjamin came to my door. It was evening, just after dark. I almost didn't answer, but something made me look through the peephole first. He was alone. He looked smaller somehow, defeated. I opened the door. "Hi, Mom," he said quietly. "Benjamin, can I come in just for a few minutes?" I hesitated, then stepped aside. He came in slowly, looking around as if seeing my house for the first time. The worn furniture, the outdated kitchen, the cracks in the plaster I couldn't afford to fix. "I brought this," he said, pulling something from his pocket. It was a check, made out to me, for $500. "What's this?" I asked. "Payment," he said. "Toward what I owe you. I calculated it. At $500 a month, it'll take me a long time, more than 30 years. But I'm going to pay you back, Mom. All of it." I stared at the check. $500. It was nothing compared to what he owed, but it was something. It was a start. "You don't have to," I began. "Yes, I do," he interrupted. "Dad was right. You were right. I've been a child, a spoiled, entitled child, and I'm 43 years old." He sat down heavily on my couch head in his hands. "Vanessa left me. Did Sophie tell you?" "Yes. She's filing for divorce, taking the kids. Said she never really loved me, just the life I gave her. Except I didn't give her that life. You did." "Benjamin, no, let me finish." He looked up at me and his eyes were red. "I've lost everything, Mom. The house, the cars, the wife, the kids. Everything. And it's because I was too weak to stand on my own feet. Too proud to admit I couldn't afford the life I was living. Too selfish to see what I was doing to you." He started crying then. My 43-year-old son sitting on my old couch, sobbing like a child. I sat down next to him, and after a moment I put my arm around his shoulders. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry, Mom." "I know. Can you forgive me?" I thought about that, about Sunday night on the porch, about 8 years of bleeding myself dry, about all the pain and anger and hurt. "Eventually," I said, "but not today. Today I'm still too angry, and you're still too new at standing on your own." He nodded, wiping his eyes. "That's fair." We sat in silence for a while. "The rental house is small," he said finally. "And quiet, really quiet. It's just me now. I come home to an empty house every day." "That's what you need right now," I said. "Quiet. Time to think. Time to figure out who you are when no one's watching. Who you are when you have to do everything yourself. It's hard. I know. Everything is hard. Grocery shopping is hard. Cooking is hard. Paying my own bills is hard. I never realized how much you were doing. Now you do." He nodded, stood up slowly. "I should go." I walked him to the door. "Mom," he said, turning back, Can I come to dinner sometime?" "Not now. Maybe in a few weeks. Just dinner." I thought about it. Thought about boundaries and consequences and healing. "Yes," I said finally. "In a few weeks. Just dinner." He smiled just a little, the smallest smile. "Thanks, Mom." After he left, I looked at the check in my hand. $500. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't reconciliation. It wasn't a happy ending. But it was a beginning. And maybe that was enough for now. 3 months after I canceled the payments, winter came to Morrison. The first snow fell on a Tuesday morning in late November, the kind of gentle, persistent snow that transforms everything into something softer. I stood at my kitchen window with my coffee, watching the flakes drift down onto my small backyard, and realized I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not happiness exactly. The wounds were still too fresh for that. But peace. A quiet settling of something that had been churning inside me for so long, I'd forgotten what stillness felt like. My phone sat on the counter silent. Benjamin had stopped calling every day. Now it was once a week, Sunday evenings usually. Short calls, updates on his life. No requests for money, no demands, just talking. Sophie was coming home for winter break in 2 weeks. She'd found a job at the campus bookstore 15 hours a week at $12 an hour. She'd sent me a photo of her first paycheck with the caption, "I earned this myself." The pride in those 3 exclamation points had made me cry. Lucas texted me occasionally from Colorado. Short messages. "Public school is okay. Made the basketball team. Miss you, Grandma." Vanessa had enrolled him in therapy. Susan had told me that adding that Vanessa herself was in therapy too, working through some things about money and self-worth. Good, I'd thought. We could all use some of that. The doorbell rang, pulling me from my thoughts. I wasn't expecting anyone. Through the peephole, I saw a young woman I didn't recognize. She was bundled in a winter coat, holding a large envelope. I opened the door cautiously. Yes, Mrs. Barrett, Amelia Barrett. Yes. I'm from Henderson & Associates Legal Services. I have documents for you. She handed me the envelope. Have a good day. She was back in her car before I could respond. I closed the door slowly and looked at the envelope. My hands started shaking before I even opened it. Legal documents. That was never good. I tore it open. My stomach dropped. I scanned the pages. Custody petition for Sophie and Lucas. Division of assets, what few remained. And then buried in the middle, a paragraph that made my blood run cold. Petitioner alleges that financial interference by Benjamin Barrett's mother, Amelia Barrett, constituted a form of financial abuse that contributed to the breakdown of the marriage. Petitioner reserves the right to pursue civil action against Amelia Barrett for damages resulting from said interference. She was threatening to sue me. Vanessa was actually threatening to sue me for ruining her marriage. I read it 3 times each time, hoping I'd misunderstood. But the words didn't change. With shaking hands, I called Janet. It's a scare tactic, Janet said 20 minutes later in her office. She'd told me to come in immediately. A bad one. No judge is going to hold you liable for stopping your own financial support of your adult son's family. But she's saying I caused the divorce. Amelia, she's angry and she's grasping at straws. This paragraph right here. Janet tapped the document. This is her lawyer letting her vent. It won't go anywhere. Trust me. You're sure? I'm sure. But I'm going to respond anyway just to make our position crystal clear. I'll send a letter to her attorney explaining that any attempt to pursue civil action against you will be met with a countersuit for harassment and a motion for sanctions against her lawyer for bringing a frivolous claim. Janet leaned back in her chair. How are you doing otherwise? I paused trying to find the right words. I'm surviving. Some days are better than others. Have you talked to Benjamin? Yes. He calls once a week, came by once about 6 weeks ago, gave me a check for $500. Janet's eyebrows went up. That's progress? I suppose. But Janet, I need to ask you something. Am I the villain here? Because sometimes I lie awake at night and wonder if I destroyed my son's life. Janet was quiet for a moment, studying me. Amelia, she said finally, I've been practicing law for 32 years. I've seen a lot of family situations. And I can tell you this, you didn't destroy your son's life. You stopped preventing him from experiencing the consequences of his own choices. There's a difference. But his marriage was built on a foundation of financial dependence and unrealistic expectations. It was going to crumble eventually. You just accelerated the timeline. And the kids? We'll be fine. Kids are resilient. And honestly, they're learning a valuable lesson about money and self-sufficiency. That's a gift, even if it doesn't feel like one right now. I nodded, but I didn't entirely believe her. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Vanessa's petition, about the phrase financial abuse, about the fact that my attempt to save myself was being framed as an attack on them. At 2 a.m, I got up and went to my computer. I opened a document I'd been working on off and on for the past few weeks. It had started as a journal entry, just me processing my feelings, but it had evolved into something more. A letter. To Benjamin. One I'd never sent. I read through what I'd written, then added a new paragraph. I need you to understand something. I didn't do this to hurt you. I did it because I was drowning. Every month I was choosing between my medication and your mortgage, between my own future and your present. And I couldn't do it anymore. Not because I stopped loving you, but because I had to start loving myself enough to survive. You told me I was being cruel, but cruelty would have been continuing to enable you until I had nothing left, and then becoming your burden. Cruelty would have been teaching your children that money appears magically, that luxury is a birthright, that sacrifice is only for other people. I chose reality. I chose consequences. I chose to let you stand on your own feet or fall trying. And maybe that feels like abandonment to you, but from where I'm standing it looks like love. The hard kind. The kind that hurts. But the kind that actually helps. I saved the document but didn't send it. Maybe someday. Maybe never. But writing it helped. Sophie came home for winter break 2 weeks later. I picked her up at the bus station downtown. When she got off the bus, I barely recognized her. She'd cut her hair short, a practical bob instead of the long-styled waves she used to maintain. She wore jeans and a university sweatshirt, carrying a backpack instead of the designer luggage she used to travel with. No makeup, no jewelry except for small silver studs in her ears. She looked real, solid, like a person instead of a costume. "Grandma." She dropped her backpack and hugged me hard. "Hi, sweetheart," I said, holding her tight. "I've missed you." "I've missed you too, so much." We drove back to my house, Sophie talking nonstop about school, her job, her classes, her new friends. "And guess what?" she said as we pulled into my driveway. "I made the dean's list, 3.8 GPA. Sophie, that's wonderful." I know, right? I was so worried when I started having to work that my grades would drop, but actually I think they got better. Like I had to manage my time more carefully so I wasn't just wasting hours on TikTok or whatever. I actually studied. Inside, I'd prepared the guest room for her. Fresh sheets, clean towels, a small vase of flowers on the dresser. Sophie set down her backpack and looked around. "This is nice, Grandma. Really nice." "It's not what you're used to." "It's better," she interrupted. "It's real. It's not performative." We had dinner together, just spaghetti and salad, nothing fancy, and talked until almost midnight. Sophie told me about her roommate, about her classes, about the boy she'd been seeing. Nothing serious, Grandma, don't get excited. She told me about applying for a summer internship that actually paid, about learning to budget her money, about the satisfaction of buying her own textbooks. "Dad calls me sometimes," she said eventually, her voice quieter. "He sounds lost." "He is lost," I said, "but he's finding his way." "Mom doesn't talk about him. She just pretends he doesn't exist, like their whole marriage was just this embarrassing mistake she wants to forget." "How do you feel about that?" Sophie was quiet, pushing pasta around her plate. "Angry, I guess. Like she's acting like she's the victim, but she was part of the problem, you know? She spent money we didn't have. She wanted the big house and the fancy cars and the country club. And when it all fell apart, she blamed everyone but herself. And your dad? He blames himself for everything, which is probably closer to the truth, but also, I don't know. It feels like everyone is so busy pointing fingers that nobody's actually dealing with the real problem, which is that we were all pretending we were rich when we weren't, pretending everything was fine when it wasn't, pretending you were just, I don't know, a fairy godmother who loved giving us stuff instead of a real person with real limits. I reached across the table and took her hand. "You're very wise, Sophie." "I don't feel wise. I feel like an idiot for not seeing it sooner." "You were a child. You're not supposed to see those things." "I'm 19, Grandma. I should have noticed." "Well, you're noticing now. That's what matters." The next morning, Sophie came downstairs early and found me in the kitchen. "Can we bake something?" she asked. "I want to learn how to make your apple cinnamon cake, the one you brought to the house that night." My heart clenched. "Of course." We spent the morning in the kitchen together. I showed her how to measure the flour, how to mix the batter just enough but not too much, how to make the cinnamon streusel topping. "Grandma," Sophie said as we waited for the cake to bake, "can I ask you something? Anything. Do you regret it, cutting Dad off?" I thought carefully before answering. "I regret that it had to happen. I regret that it caused so much pain. But I don't regret doing it. Does that make sense?" "Yeah, it does." She paused. "I think what you did was brave." "It doesn't feel brave." "That's because you're in the middle of it. But from the outside, you stood up for yourself against your own son. That takes guts." The timer went off. We pulled the cake from the oven, golden and perfect, filling the kitchen with the smell of cinnamon and apples. Sophie took a picture of it. "Can I post this?" "Of course." She typed on her phone, then showed me the caption, "Learning to bake from the strongest woman I know. #gratitude, #family recipes, #real wealth." "What's real wealth?" I asked. "You," she said simply. "Skills, knowledge, relationships that aren't based on money. That's real wealth." I hugged her, and she hugged me back, and we both cried a little. Christmas came. I'd been dreading it. Last year, I'd bought expensive gifts for everyone, paid for Christmas dinner at a fancy restaurant, funded the whole production. This year I had a modest budget and a quiet house. Sophie was with me. Lucas had asked to come, but Vanessa had insisted he stay in Colorado for family time. Benjamin had called to say he'd be alone in his rental house. "Don't worry about me, Mom," he'd said. "I'll be fine." On Christmas Eve, Sophie and I baked cookies together. We watched old movies. We strung popcorn for the small tree I'd bought at the grocery store. It was simple, quiet, and unexpectedly lovely. Around 8 o'clock, the doorbell rang. Sophie and I looked at each other. We weren't expecting anyone. I opened the door to find Benjamin standing on my porch, holding a small wrapped package and looking uncertain. "Hi, Mom," he said. "I know I wasn't invited, but I just wanted to drop this off, and to see if maybe I could come in just for an hour." I looked at Sophie. She nodded. "Come in," I said. Benjamin stepped inside, stamping snow off his boots. He looked around at our modest decorations, at the cookies cooling on the kitchen counter, at the old movie playing on TV. "This is nice," he said softly. "Really nice." "Would you like some cookies?" Sophie asked. "We made them ourselves." "You baked?" Benjamin looked at his daughter in surprise. "Grandma's teaching me. I can make 3 things now: cookies, apple cake, and spaghetti sauce from scratch." That's great, Sophie." We sat in the living room together, the 3 of us eating cookies and watching It's a Wonderful Life. Benjamin didn't talk much. He just sat there, present, not asking for anything, not demanding anything, just being there. When the movie ended, he stood to leave. "Wait," I said. I went to the tree and pulled out a small wrapped package. "I got you something." Benjamin took it with trembling hands. Inside was a book, The Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey. He stared at it, then started laughing. Not bitter laughter, real laughter. "That's perfect, Mom," he said. "Really? Thank you." He handed me his package. Inside was a framed photo I'd never seen before. It was from years ago, me and Robert and baby Benjamin at the lake. Robert had his arm around me, and I was holding Benjamin, and all 3 of us were laughing. "I found it when I was packing up the old house," Benjamin said quietly. "I wanted you to have it, to remember, before everything got complicated." I looked at the photo, at our young, happy faces, and felt tears sting my eyes. "Thank you," I whispered. Benjamin hugged me, a real hug, not the brief, obligatory kind we'd been doing for years. "Merry Christmas, Mom," he said. "I love you, even though I've been really bad at showing it." "I love you too." After he left, Sophie and I sat in the quiet living room, the only light coming from the tree. "That was nice," Sophie said. "Yes," I agreed. It was. January brought bitter cold and a phone call from Vanessa's lawyer. "Mrs. Barrett, this is Michael Donnelly. I represent Vanessa Barrett in her divorce proceedings." My stomach tightened. "Yes. I'm calling to inform you that Ms. Barrett has decided to withdraw the portion of her petition that referenced you. She will not be pursuing any civil action." I sat down slowly. "Why?" "Between you and me, Mrs. Barrett, because I told her she didn't have a case and would be wasting her money pursuing it. She's agreed to focus on the divorce itself and leave you out of it." "Thank you for calling." "One more thing. Ms. Barrett asked me to pass along a message. She said to tell you she understands why you did what you did, and that she's sorry." I hung up and stared at the wall for a long time. Vanessa understood. Vanessa was sorry. I didn't know what to do with that information. February marked 6 months since I'd canceled the payments. I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop and opened my financial spreadsheet, the one I'd been carefully updating since the day I'd walked into the bank. Savings remaining $487,000, up from $450,000 6 months ago. Monthly burn rate $0. I was living entirely on Social Security and pension money. Saved in 6 months, $93,000, the amount I would have spent supporting Benjamin's payments to me, $3,000. 6 months at $500 each. I had gained back time. Security. Peace of mind. But I'd also gained something unexpected. I'd started painting again. It had started small. Sophie had noticed my old art supplies in the garage during winter break. "Grandma, I didn't know you painted." "I used to," I'd said, "a long time ago." "Why did you stop?" Good question. Why had I stopped? Because there was no time. Because every spare moment went to worrying about Benjamin, helping Benjamin, managing Benjamin's crises. Because I'd made my life so small to make his life bigger. Sophie had bought me new paints for Christmas. Tubes of acrylic in every color, brushes, canvases. "Start again, Grandma. Please." So I had. Now every morning after coffee I spent an hour painting. Simple things at first: flowers, landscapes, the view from my window. But slowly, something was emerging. A style. A voice I'd forgotten I had. I'd even sold a painting. Susan had seen it and asked if she could buy it for her daughter's birthday. $50. Not much, but I hadn't painted for money. I'd painted for joy. And joy, I was learning, was its own kind of wealth. In March, Lucas called me. "Grandma, can I tell you something?" "Of course, sweetheart." "I'm staying in Colorado with Mom for now, but when I graduate, I want to go to college near you. Is that okay?" My heart swelled. That would be more than okay. "Cool, because Mom is..." "She's trying. She really is. She got a better job marketing manager at some company. She goes to therapy. She's different now. Less, I don't know, less fake." "I'm glad, Lucas. But Dad is still who I want to be like, even though he messed up. He's trying too, you know. He works really hard now. And he's happy, like actually happy, not fake happy." "What makes you think he's happy?" "He laughs now, real laughs. And he plays basketball with me when I visit. He never used to do that. He was always too busy or too tired. Now he makes time." After we hung up, I thought about that. Benjamin was happy, not because he had more, but because he had less. Less pressure to maintain an image. Less pretense. Less debt. Maybe that was the real gift I'd given him. Not money. Freedom. In April, something unexpected happened. I received a letter from Sophie's university. She'd nominated me for something called the Unsung Hero Award, a recognition given to family members who'd made significant sacrifices for students' education. The letter invited me to campus for the ceremony. I called Sophie immediately. "Sweetheart, what is this?" "It's exactly what it says, Grandma. I wrote an essay about you, about everything you did for me, for our family, about how you taught me the real meaning of strength. They selected you as one of 5 recipients this year. Sophie, I don't need an award. I know you don't need it, but I need to give it to you. Please, Grandma, let me honor you." So I went. The ceremony was in the university's chapel, a beautiful old building with stained glass windows. There were maybe 100 people there, students, faculty, family members. Sophie walked to the podium when they called my name. "My grandmother, Amelia Barrett," she began, her voice steady and clear, "taught me something I never learned in any classroom. She taught me that love isn't about giving people everything they want. It's about giving them what they need even when it hurts, even when they hate you for it." She told the story, not all of it, but enough. About the payments, about the door closing, about the hard choice I'd made. "My grandmother saved herself," Sophie said, "and in doing so, she saved me. She showed me that self-respect comes from self-sufficiency, that real wealth isn't measured in bank accounts but in character, that the hardest choices are often the right ones." She looked directly at me, tears streaming down her face. I am who I am today because she loved me enough to stop enabling my parents, because she believed I could stand on my own feet, because she gave me the greatest gift anyone has ever given me, the opportunity to earn my own way. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. After the ceremony, people came up to me, strangers, thanking me, telling me their own stories of toxic family dynamics, of financial abuse, of setting boundaries. "You're so brave," one woman said. "You saved your son's life," another said. "I wish I'd had your courage," a man told me. I didn't feel brave. I felt tired and grateful, and somehow lighter than I'd been in years. In May, Benjamin called with news. "Mom, I need to tell you something." My stomach tightened. "What is it?" "I'm closing my solo practice. I'm joining a firm as an associate. It's a significant pay cut down to $160,000, but it comes with benefits and regular hours and no overhead." That's wonderful, Benjamin. It means I can't pay you as much each month. Maybe $300 instead of $500. I'm sorry." "Don't apologize. I'm proud of you for making this choice." "Really? Really? You're building something sustainable. That's what matters." There was a long pause. "Mom, I want to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me." "Okay? Do you think you'll ever forgive me? Really forgive me?" I thought about that, about the pain and the anger and the slow, gradual healing that had been happening over the past 9 months. "I'm getting there," I said honestly. "Some days I'm closer than others. But yes, Benjamin, I think someday I will." "That's all I can ask for," he said quietly. Thank you. Summer came, and with it a visitor I didn't expect. Vanessa. She called first, which I appreciated. Amelia, I'm going to be in town next week for Sophie's birthday. I was wondering if we could meet for coffee. Just the two of us. Why? Because I owe you an apology, a real one, face to face. We met at the coffee shop downtown, the one with the big windows overlooking Main Street. Vanessa looked different. She'd cut her hair shorter, wore minimal makeup, was dressed in simple jeans and a t-shirt. She looked real, like Sophie had looked, like an actual person instead of a carefully curated image. We ordered coffee and sat in uncomfortable silence for a moment. Thank you for meeting me, Vanessa said finally. You said you wanted to apologize. I do, and I'm trying to figure out where to start. She wrapped her hands around her coffee cup. I've been in therapy since January. Really doing the work, you know, and I've realized some things about myself that are hard. Like what? Like the fact that I married Benjamin for security. Not love, security. I grew up poor, Amelia, really poor. Food stamps, welfare, eviction notices, poor. And I swore I'd never be poor again. She looked up at me, her eyes red. So when I met Benjamin, successful lawyer, good family prospects, I saw an escape, and I took it. And then I built my entire identity around not being poor. The house, the cars, the clothes, the club. It was all armor. Proof that I'd made it. That I wasn't that scared little girl anymore. And when it all went away, I fell apart. Because without the armor, I didn't know who I was. She wiped her eyes. I blamed you. For months I blamed you. Called you terrible things. Told people you were bitter and vindictive. But my therapist kept asking me the same question. Who was actually responsible for our lifestyle? And what did you answer? Me and Benjamin. We chose it. We maintained it. We refused to live within our means because we were both too proud and too scared to admit we couldn't afford it. She reached across the table, not quite touching me, but close. You didn't destroy my marriage, Amelia. You exposed it. There's a difference. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry for using you. For taking advantage of your love, for treating you like an ATM, for closing the door in your face that night. I looked at her, this woman I'd resented for so long, and saw something I hadn't seen before: pain. Real, genuine pain. The kind that comes from looking at yourself honestly and not liking what you see. I forgive you, I said. Vanessa's face crumpled. Just like that. Not just like that. It took me 9 months to get here. But yes, I forgive you. Why? Because holding on to anger was killing me. And because you did something Benjamin still hasn't done, you took full responsibility. That matters. We talked for another hour about her new job, which she actually enjoyed, about therapy and growth and learning to live on a budget, about Lucas, who was thriving, about her plans for the future. When we parted, Vanessa hugged me. Thank you, she whispered, for everything. Including saying no. Sophie's birthday was 2 days later. Benjamin came to my house for a small celebration. Just the four of us, me, Benjamin, Sophie, and Vanessa. Civil, polite, not exactly warm, but not hostile either. Sophie was turning 20. She'd lined up a paid internship for the summer. She'd declared a major in finance. She had a boyfriend who worked 2 jobs to pay for community college. He's nothing like Dad, she'd told me on the phone, then quickly added, I mean the old Dad, before. We had cake, the apple cinnamon cake Sophie and I had made together. We sang happy birthday. We gave her modest gifts. I gave her a set of financial planning books. Benjamin gave her a professional briefcase for her internship. Vanessa gave her a journal. Not expensive gifts, Vanessa said, but thoughtful ones. I'm learning the difference. After cake, Benjamin pulled out an envelope. Sophie, your grandma and I have been talking, and we've agreed on something. He handed her the envelope. Inside was a document. It's a contract, Benjamin explained. For your student loans, the ones you took out this year when Grandma stopped paying tuition. I'm going to pay them off. Not give you the money, pay them directly to the loan company. And in exchange, you're going to work for me one summer, helping me organize my practice's finances. Deal. Sophie looked at me, eyes wide. Grandma, did you know about this? He asked my opinion, I said. I told him it was a good compromise. He's helping you, but you're earning it. And you're learning. Sophie hugged her father. Thank you, Dad. Thank you for giving me a second chance. he said quietly. July brought another milestone 1 year since that night on the porch. I marked it quietly, privately. I made another apple cinnamon cake just for myself this time and sat on my porch in the evening eating a slice and watching the sunset. I thought about everything that had changed, everything that had been lost and gained. Lost the illusion of a happy family, the comfort of being needed, the simplicity of just saying yes. Gained my self-respect, my financial security, real relationships based on honesty instead of transactions, the knowledge that I could be strong when I needed to be. My phone rang. Benjamin. "Hi, Mom. I'm not interrupting anything, am I?" "No, just sitting on my porch." I was thinking, it's been a year since I came over for that first dinner after everything happened. Would you like to do dinner again this Sunday? I smiled. I'd like that. My place this time. I'll cook. Nothing fancy, just spaghetti, but I've been practicing. That sounds perfect, Benjamin. After I hung up, I sat there a while longer watching the light fade from the sky. Sunday dinners, a new tradition, not based on money or obligation, but on choice and effort. That felt like progress. In August, I received a letter from Lucas. He'd written it by hand, his teenage scrawl barely legible. "Dear Grandma," it began. "I'm writing this because Mom said I should tell people when they've made a difference in my life, and you've made a huge difference in mine. When everything fell apart last year, I was so angry. At you, at Dad, at everyone. I thought my life was over. No more private school, no more fancy stuff, no more being the rich kid. But you know what? It was the best thing that ever happened to me. At public school, I had to actually try. I had to make friends based on who I am, not what I have. I had to work for things. And it turns out I'm pretty good at working for things. I made the basketball team. I got a job at the movie theater. I saved up and bought my own Xbox. And those things mean more to me than anything you or Dad ever bought me because I earned them. Mom says you taught her about self-worth. I don't totally understand what that means yet, but I think it's about knowing you're valuable even when you don't have stuff, and knowing you can survive even when things are hard. Thank you for teaching us that, even though it sucked at the time. Love, Lucas. P.S. I'm applying to colleges next year. I want to study engineering. I think I'd be good at building things. I read the letter 3 times, crying each time. This was why. This was the reason for all of it. Not revenge, not punishment, but this, a 16-year-old boy learning that he could build his own life, that he didn't need someone else's money to have value. I put the letter in a frame and hung it in my kitchen, right next to the photo Benjamin had given me Christmas. September marked the beginning of Sophie's junior year. She called me from campus excited. "Grandma, guess what I got promoted at the bookstore? I'm assistant manager now. $20 an hour. Sophie, that's wonderful. And I applied for this scholarship, the first-generation college student scholarship, and I won its $5,000. But you're not first generation. Your father went to college." "I know, but the scholarship also covers students who are financially independent from their parents. And since Dad isn't paying for my school anymore, I qualified. Isn't that crazy?" "That's not crazy. That's justice. I'm going to take you out to dinner when I come home for fall break. My treat, with money I earned." "I'd love that, sweetheart." After we hung up, I thought about that. Sophie wanted to take me to dinner, with her own money. The wheel had come full circle. October arrived, and with it an invitation. Benjamin had called a week earlier. "Mom, I have something to ask you, and I need you to think about it carefully before you answer." "Okay." "I'm having a small dinner party. Just a few friends from work, some neighbors. Nothing fancy. And I'd like you to come. As my guest. As my mother. Not hidden, not excluded. Actually, they're actually welcomed." My breath caught. "Benjamin, I know I can't undo what happened that night, but I'd like to try to make it right. So, will you come? Please?" I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. "Yes," I said. "I'll come." The dinner was at Benjamin's rental house. It was small, modest, with mismatched furniture and a kitchen that hadn't been updated since the 1980s. It was also warm and welcoming and felt more like a home than the big house ever had. There were 8 guests total. Benjamin introduced me to everyone. "This is my mother, Amelia. She's an artist and a financial genius and the strongest person I know. Not hidden, not apologized for. Celebrated. We had spaghetti and salad and garlic bread. We sat around Benjamin's small dining table, squeezed in close, laughing and talking. At one point, one of Benjamin's colleagues said, "Benjamin, you've really turned things around this year. We're all impressed by your work ethic." Benjamin looked at me across the table. "I learned from the best," he said quietly. After dinner, as I was leaving, Benjamin walked me to my car. "Thank you for coming, Mom. Thank you for inviting me. I want to tell you something." He looked down at his feet, then back at me. "A year ago, I thought losing everything was the worst thing that could happen to me. I thought I'd never recover, never be happy again. And now I realize losing everything was the best thing that could have happened. Because I didn't lose everything. I lost the things that didn't matter, and I found the things that do." "Like what?" "Like self-respect, like real friendships based on who I am, not what I have. Like the ability to look at myself in the mirror and not feel like a fraud." He paused. "Like a real relationship with my mother instead of a transactional one." I hugged him, and he hugged me back, and this time there was no awkwardness, no tension, just love. "I'm proud of you," I whispered. "Thank you, Mom, for everything, including the hard stuff, especially the hard stuff." November came, and with it Thanksgiving. For the first time in 9 years, I didn't pay for Thanksgiving dinner. I didn't organize it, didn't host it, didn't fund it. Instead, it was a potluck. Benjamin's rental house, everyone bringing something. Sophie came from school bringing homemade rolls she'd learned to bake. Lucas flew in from Colorado with Vanessa bringing a pumpkin pie from a local bakery. Benjamin made the turkey slightly dry but edible. I brought my apple cinnamon cake and a green bean casserole. Vanessa brought wine, not expensive wine, just regular wine from the grocery store. We squeezed around Benjamin's small table knees, bumping, reaching across each other for dishes. It was chaotic and imperfect and absolutely beautiful. Before we ate, Benjamin cleared his throat. "I want to say something. We have a tradition in this family of going around and saying what we're thankful for, and I want to start." He looked at each of us. "I'm thankful for failure, for losing everything, for hitting rock bottom, because it taught me who I really am. And I'm thankful for my mother who loved me enough to let me fall, who saved me by refusing to save me." Vanessa went next. "I'm thankful for therapy, for uncomfortable truths, for learning that I'm more than my bank account. And I'm thankful that we're all here together, even though we're not together. That we can still be family even when we're broken." Sophie, "I'm thankful for student loans, for work-study jobs, for ramen noodles and thrift stores, for learning that I'm capable of taking care of myself, and for a grandmother who believed in me enough to stop enabling me." Lucas, "I'm thankful for public school and used bikes and having to earn my own money, and for everyone at this table, even though you all made my life harder this year." He grinned. Turns out harder was better. They all looked at me. I took a breath. "I'm thankful for boundaries, for second chances, for children who learn and grow, for grandchildren who understand, and for the courage to choose myself without forgetting to love all of you." We ate, we laughed, we told stories. At one point, Lucas said, "Hey, remember when we used to have Thanksgiving at that fancy restaurant?" "Vaguely," Sophie said. "This is way better," Lucas said. And he was right. December brought the final piece of the puzzle. I received a check in the mail from Benjamin. But it wasn't for $300. It was for $3,000. I called him immediately. "Benjamin, this is too much. You can't afford this." "Actually, I can. I got a year-end bonus. Not huge, but decent. And I wanted to do something with it that mattered." "But Mom, at my current rate of $300 a month, it'll take me 51 years to pay you back. I'll be 94. You'll be 115. I'd like to move a little faster than that." I laughed despite myself. "Benjamin, you don't have to pay me back at all." "Yes, I do. Not because you need the money, though I'm sure you can use it, but because I need to. I need to know that I'm making this right, that I'm not just sorry I'm making amends." "You've already made amends." "Then think of it as interest on the loan I never acknowledged was a loan. Please, Mom, let me do this." So I did Christmas Eve 1 year and 3 months after the night that changed everything. I sat in my living room surrounded by my family. Benjamin reading the paper in the chair by the window. Sophie wrapping last-minute gifts at the coffee table. Lucas teaching me how to use some new app on my phone. And me in my favorite chair drinking tea from a mug Sophie had made me in a pottery class, World's Strongest Grandma. The tree was modest. The gifts were thoughtful, but not expensive. The dinner would be simple, and it was perfect. "Grandma," Lucas said, looking up from my phone, "can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Do you ever regret it, what you did last year?" Everyone got quiet, waiting for my answer. "No," I said. "I don't regret it. It was hard and it hurt, and there were days I thought I'd made a terrible mistake, but no, I don't regret it." "Why not?" Sophie asked softly. "Because look at us," I said, gesturing around the room. "Last year at this time we had more money, more stuff, more space, but we didn't have this. We didn't have honesty or respect or real connection. We had a transaction disguised as a family." "And now," Benjamin asked, "now we have less of everything except what matters, and what matters is enough." That night, after everyone had gone to bed, I sat alone in my living room. The house was quiet except for the gentle sound of Benjamin snoring from the guest room and the creaking of Sophie moving around upstairs. I thought about that night 18 months ago when I'd stood on a different porch holding a cake nobody wanted. I thought about how much had broken in the time since. A marriage, a lifestyle, an illusion. But I also thought about how much had been built. Strength, honesty, real relationships. I pulled out my phone and opened the Notes app. I'd been keeping a journal of sorts, short entries when the mood struck. I typed December 24th, 2025. Tonight I am surrounded by family. Not the family I thought I'd have perfect, comfortable, easy, but the family we've become messy, honest, real. My son is sleeping in my guest room in a house he helped me afford with the first year-end bonus he didn't spend before he got it. My granddaughter is upstairs planning her future as a financial advisor because she watched me choose myself and realized that was a strength, not a failure. My grandson is thriving 1,000 miles away, learning that struggle builds character. And my former daughter-in-law is building a life that's truly hers. 18 months ago, I thought love meant giving until there was nothing left. I thought being a good mother meant being a doormat. But I learned something. The greatest gift you can give someone is the belief that they can stand on their own. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is step back and let them prove it. The 127 payments built a prison for both of us. Canceling them set us free. I have less money now, but I have more peace, more joy, more genuine connection. And that I'm learning is the real measure of wealth. Merry Christmas to the woman I was 18 months ago, the woman who was drowning but didn't know it, the woman who thought enabling was love. Thank you for finding the courage to save yourself. It saved us all. I saved the note and closed my phone. Then I turned off the lights, checked that the doors were locked, and went to bed. Tomorrow was Christmas. We'd wake up and make breakfast together. We'd open modest gifts. We'd spend the day playing board games and watching movies and just being together. It wouldn't be fancy or expensive or Instagram-worthy, but it would be real. And real, I'd learned, was worth more than anything money could buy. Sophie graduated with honors and a job offer from a major financial planning firm. Lucas got a full scholarship to study engineering. Benjamin made partner at his firm and paid off 40% of what he owed me. Vanessa remarried a high school teacher who made her laugh and didn't care about designer labels. And me, I sold 12 paintings last year. Started teaching a watercolor class at the community center. Traveled to see Lucas at college. Hosted Sunday dinners in my small, modest, paid-off house. I was 76 years old, and for the first time in decades, I was living for myself. Not selfishly, but healthily, with boundaries and self-respect and the knowledge that my worth wasn't measured by my bank account or my utility to others. Last week, Sophie called with news. She was getting married. To a man who worked in IT and drove a 10-year-old Honda and made her genuinely happy. "Will you help plan the wedding, Grandma?" she asked. Of course. But just to be clear, we're paying for it ourselves. Well, mostly. If you want to contribute something small, you can. But we're not expecting it. That sounds perfect, sweetheart. And Grandma, one more thing. Yes? I want you to know something. That night when Dad closed the door on you, when you made the hardest decision of your life, that was the night that saved me. That taught me everything I needed to know about strength and love and self-respect. So thank you for being the kind of grandmother who loved me enough to let me struggle. After we hung up, I sat in my kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd baked that apple cinnamon cake 2 years ago, and I cried. But this time they were tears of joy.